Nick, how do you see this playing out?
Well, I rarely don this hat, but I will put on my journalism reporter hat for just a moment. I borrowed one of the mini Brew keeps in his office. I hope he doesn't mind. I can, I guess, report a few things that I know to be true. I know that Chris not being there at this point is very surprising to Kansas City. I know that right now the difference is $9.5 million bucks over 2 years. So over 2 years.
So not each.
So
about
Chris has on the table a 2-year fully guaranteed extension that's $27.25 million a year. So 2 years for $54.5 million that would be tacked onto the end of this deal. Chris wants 2 years, $64 million, which is $32 million a year. Aaron Donald obviously makes $31.7 million a year. Set the new standard, and that's
fair.
I'm
better than this guy.
I'm not
a little bit more.
I'm not saying it's not fair. And the Chiefs feel this is not an instance of we are asking for a team-friendly deal or a discount or anything like that, because the market is Jeffrey Simmons is at 23.5. Quinnen Williams just got his new deals at 24, and they're offering over 27. And Aaron Donald's deal is an outlier.
It is.
And Chris feels like I'm the best in the league, so I want that deal. So I think this is like at this point there is an element of not sure where we go. And so that's where we're at, and I don't know what the answer is. I think it has surprised people that it's now game like practices, because the Chiefs game's on Thursday. Practices started and he wasn't there, and so I'm not sure. I'm not sure where this goes, but that's where we're at right now. So yeah. So
Greg, what's your reaction on? I haven't gone through an NFL contract negotiation, but it feels like we had this conversation with Lamar too, where people were pointing at Deshaun Watson's contract, and it was always like, well, that's an outlier. Put that one over here. Let's just focus over here. How do you think that plays? And how good you are, how good you think everybody else is, and where you fall on that scale?
Players don't see the outliers. Players, you either feel like you're the best and you should be paid accordingly, or you fall into the slot that you're at, period, point blank. And right now, Chris Jones feels like he's the best.
And he is.
He definitely is.
Aaron Donald is one of the greatest players ever, but right now, this moment, Chris Jones is the best.
He's the best. When I look at this situation, and if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, the last thing I want is for someone who is not present to become a distraction. Because their goals, what they have on the table, it's not just winning opening night. This is long term. This is, are we good enough? Do we have the talent and the personnel to repeat? We have not seen a repeat done since the Patriots.
In almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years. This is an opportunity that they all have on the table, and we heard it from Travis Kelce on his podcast, kind of appealing to Chris Jones.
Yeah.
Chris, man, I don't know what's going on.
And he was being genuine.
He was being very genuine.
I love you, and I don't know what's happening.
And the fact that he said, I don't know what's happening, it gives me a sense of they're talking to their players like, look, we're trying to get this done. They're informing them. When you look at Andy Reid and how he responds to this question, he's agitated about it. Naturally, I don't want to be discussing this because I got 45 guys that are going to dress that I got to prepare for a game that's in a few days.
But I'll throw it right to you, Brew. I just want to make one, because I'm not sure if I said this part of it. The offer, the 2 years for $54+ million is a fully guaranteed offer. So it's no funny money. It is really a difference of we think the Chiefs feel like they are splitting the difference between Quinnen Williams and Aaron Donald, and Chris doesn't. And so, that's where they're at. And so this is the one thing that I'm trying to make clear. This is not an instance of Mahomes took less, Travis took less, take less. They don't feel like they're asking him to take less.
They don't. But he
does.
Yeah.
Correct.
And he's saying, one reason, Donald being an outlier. Obviously, he's one of the greatest ever. But also, they won that Super Bowl.
They won the Super Bowl.
So Chris is saying, I've helped us win 2 Super Bowls.
Yes.
You know, so why? I don't want to hear the outlier talk. This is a distraction. You know, I'm the king of vibes. Some bad vibes. And I'm not trying to be funny. Like, for several reasons. One, as you said, I think Mahomes and Andy Reid showed, like, I don't want to be answering questions about this all the time. All right, and who knows what other players in the locker rooms are being asked about it.
And it should be, yes, they're preparing for the Lions. It also should be a bit of a celebratory.
Yeah.
They're dropping a banner. They're the defending champs. You know what I mean? So go
Absolutely.
ahead.
And Andy, and I believe Andy Reid loves Chris Jones and all that. But his answers, while they might be good, solid coach speak, it comes off as a little dismissive of him, you know, like we can move on, we'll be fine, you know. And some people might start to highlight that. Secondly, 2 of your best 2 players, Kelsey and Mahomes, we know are taking less money. And now the third member of their trinity doesn't want to do it. He's bucking the system and saying, no, I want to get mine. I think other players in the locker room could be looking at it saying, isn't this like Pat and Travis took less money, and Patrick might be thinking, this is why I took less money, so we could keep all our guys. And you've seen how many have left.
Correct. They've already
Frank
traded
Clark and Tyreek and Orlando.
Well, Frank Clark, I think, is a different situation because they weren't trying to extend Frank. Yes. But they were trying to extend Orlando, didn't get done, and Tyreek wanted $30 million, so they moved on from him. There's one other part of this I want to say before we move on to the Chiefs' schedule, or a week 1 opponent, I should say. This is where, and I want to be everybody knows, obviously I'm a Chiefs fan. Obviously I would love for Chris Jones to be there. I also adore the player, know the man, have massive respect for him, and want him to get what is fair and what he deserves. So I'm not trying to ask anybody to take less money. I do wonder if right now it's become more about principle than dollars. Because, we are talking about a difference of $9.5 million. If he misses, he's talked about missing 7 weeks.
Right. Yep.
That's more than $9 million.
Exactly.
Like,
What is this about?
And if it is, well, I'm going to miss those 7 weeks and then play out my deal and become a free agent in the franchise tag, we'll see what happens. But then there is the massive risk of, if he gets, for any of these guys, if you get hurt, that money's not there. And so it is, I do wonder if this, I know his agent, Chris, is his biggest client by a mile. I think his second biggest client is T.Y. Hilton. So this is his big guy. And I do wonder if it has become more about standing on principle than, wait, am I actually going to, even if I get what I want, am I going to end up costing myself money? And if this is about money, which is a weird spot.
So let's talk about the Lions.
Yeah.
If they're gridlocked, and something needs to break it, you got Jared Goff on Thursday, and I know you don't want to entertain it. Mahomes is 5-0 and scores 5,000 points.
37.8.
37.8. Greg, could you see if Jared Goff, this is him without facing pressure, he's pretty good. If the Lions win, or if Jared Goff has a massive game and the Chiefs squeak out a win, do you think that could switch the negotiations or give Chris Jones some leverage back in his favor?
I don't know if it switches the negotiations. So I just got to, from a player's perspective, like Chris Jones right now, let's just say he doesn't dress. He doesn't sign. He doesn't get this contract done. And he watches his team on Thursday like we all will. He would want them to win. But where guys are selfish, and I know there are going to be some clapback, guys don't want their team to lose, but you don't want your position to thrive.
Right.
So want to win a shootout.
You absolutely.
He would want him to 42-38.
He wants to feel like you missed me.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the way things shift. How that defensive interior line looks, if they can't get pressure on Goff, which the Detroit Lions have a really good offensive line, you're dealing with a pocket passer. You need pressure up front. So all these things will equate to, man, we could have used Chris.
And it should be noted, 30 years ago, the Dallas Cowboys defending champs, Emmitt Smith held out the first 2 games. They went 0-2. He got his money. They went back and won the Super Bowl. Right. And he proved his leverage. Where I think the Chiefs are in a strong position in this regard is the first 3 games, Detroit, Jacksonville, Chicago, are against two objectively bad defenses in Detroit and Chicago,
Yeah.
and one, I think, secondary that can got in Jacksonville. And if Patrick Mahomes has to, for a month against those teams, put a cape on and average 35 points per game, I think he will do exactly that. Now, you have the Jets and Minnesota and, then some divisional games after that. That's a different story. But I think that as great as Chris Jones is, I think if he's not there for the month of September, the month of September ends with the Chiefs 3-0, averaging 35 a game.
Brew, can I make a confession? One time when I got benched in my rec basketball league, I rooted for my substitute to miss shots. I did. I hope we won. But I was like, I really did, Greg.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.